You are 23 years old and $300 feels like too much money to give up every month. Not because you are irresponsible, not because you are bad with money, because life already has plans for every dollar before it even arrives. Rent takes the first piece immediately. Groceries cost more than they did 6 months ago. Gas prices rise quietly, in the background like they are, testing how much pressure people can survive before they finally break. Your phone bill renews automatically. Your car insurance payment feels insulting every single month. Friends invite you out constantly, because this is the age where everyone is trying to enjoy freedom before responsibilities fully settle in. Weddings begin appearing, weekend trips begin appearing, birthday dinners somehow become entire financial events. By the middle of the month, the paycheck is no longer money. It is obligations converted into numbers. That is how most people live. Not broke, not wealthy, just financially occupied. Every dollar mentally assigned before it lands. Somewhere inside that routine you begin hearing about investing, not in a serious educational way, in fragments. A podcast clip, a co-worker mentioning their retirement account casually, a video online showing graphs that look unrealistic. You download an investing app late one night mostly out of curiosity. You stare at words like ETFs, index funds, expense ratios, dividend reinvestment, tax efficiency. The language feels intentionally designed to make normal people feel underqualified. You close the app 10 minutes later because confusion feels safer than making a mistake with money you cannot easily replace. Then one night something changes. You see a simple projection online. No fake millionaire energy. No rented Lamborghini thumbnail. Just math. Someone shows what happens if a person invests $300 every month into a low-cost index fund, starting at age 23 and leaves it alone for decades. The final number is large enough that you stop scrolling entirely. Not because it looks impossible, because it looks reachable. That is what disturbs you. You suddenly realize financial security is often not built through dramatic income increases or lottery ticket opportunities. Sometimes it is built through ordinary decisions repeated consistently for an unreasonable amount of time. That realization follows you around afterward. The next morning you buy coffee before work like usual. The total comes out to $12.18. You tap your card automatically, but for the first time your brain multiplies the number without permission. $12 today, 12 tomorrow. Hundreds every month disappearing through tiny transactions too small to feel dangerous individually. Delivery fees, streaming subscriptions, late-night impulse purchases, snacks at gas stations, random convenient spending that never looks serious because it arrived in pieces instead of one painful amount. You suddenly understand something uncomfortable about money. Financial damage rarely announces itself dramatically. It leaks slowly through habits that feel harmless in isolation. That night you reopen the investing app. This time you stay longer. You still do not fully understand what you are doing, but you understand enough to realize waiting until you feel completely confident could cost you years you will never get back. You choose a broad market index fund because every financially literate person eventually repeats the same boring advice. Low fees, diversification, long-term horizon. Nothing exciting, nothing designed to become viral online. Just ownership in thousands of companies, growing gradually over decades while economies continue moving forward. Imperfectly but consistently. You transfer $150 immediately. Your thumb hesitates before pressing confirm. Not because the amount itself is enormous, because uncertainty feels expensive when your money already feels limited. Part of your brain begins asking questions immediately. What if the market crashes tomorrow? What if you need this money next month? What if everyone else secretly understands something you do not? Eventually you press the button anyway. The money disappears from your checking account. Your balance shrinks instantly. Emotionally it feels like loss even though logically the money still belongs to you. That is one of the strange psychological realities of investing early on. Spending money produces immediate pleasure. Investing money often produces immediate discomfort. The next month you invest another $150, then another. Eventually you automate the process because you Realize something important about human behavior very quickly. If investing depends entirely on motivation, eventually life will interrupt it. Motivation changes with stress, exhaustion, heartbreak, uncertainty, and boredom. Systems survive those things, so you set the transfers intentionally around your paydays. $150 automatically moves into your Roth IRA on the 1st of every month. Another $150 moves into a brokerage account on the 15th. The money leaves before your lifestyle has time to absorb it. The first few months feel deeply unimpressive. The account balance barely moves. Some days the number rises slightly. Other days it falls for reasons nobody around you can clearly explain. The financial news talks about inflation fears, interest rates, recessions, elections, geopolitical instability. The market reacts emotionally to information you barely understand. Your balance reaches roughly $1,100 after several months of contributions. Meanwhile, your friends continue spending normally. Concert tickets, bar tabs, new phones financed monthly, weekend vacations charged to credit cards. Social media begins making your discipline feel slightly ridiculous. This is the stage where most people stop, not because they are lazy, because the human brain struggles to stay committed to rewards it cannot emotionally feel yet. Early investing is psychologically unrewarding. The sacrifice feels immediate. The payoff feels invisible. Your brain wants feedback, proof, evidence that the effort matters. But long-term wealth building does not provide emotional reinforcement early enough to satisfy human instincts. That is the entire challenge. Still, you continue, not perfectly, consistently. You begin noticing small behavioral changes in yourself. You stop browsing shopping apps when bored. You wait before buying things. Not forever, just long enough to separate impulse from actual desire. Sometimes the urge disappears entirely after 2 days. Other times it stays, and you buy the item anyway. But now the purchase feels intentional instead of automatic. Money slowly transforms from something reactive into something deliberate. 6 months pass. The account balance crosses $2,300. You expected some dramatic emotional transformation once the number started growing. It never arrives. You still wake up for work. You still worrying about expenses occasionally. You still hesitate before expensive purchases. But something subtle has changed psychologically. The $300 no longer feels missing. Your lifestyle quietly adjusted around the lower spending amount faster than expected. Restaurants became slightly less frequent. Random online purchases slowed naturally. Several subscriptions disappeared without affecting your happiness at all. None of these changes ruined your life the way you feared they would. This is when you realize lifestyle inflation works both directions. People become accustomed to spending more extremely quickly, but humans also adapt. Surprisingly fast to spending less when the adjustment becomes consistent. What originally felt like sacrifice slowly becomes normal. That normalization changes your relationship with money permanently because you stop viewing every dollar exclusively through the lens of immediate consumption. 1 year passes. The account holds slightly over $4,000. Objectively, $4,000 is not enough to retire on. It is not enough to impress anyone online. But emotionally, it changes something important. Emergencies no longer feel instantly catastrophic. A surprise car repair becomes frustrating instead of devastating. A medical bill creates inconvenience instead of panic. You begin understanding that savings do not only purchase future wealth, they purchase present stability. They create distance between you and desperation. Around this time, the market suddenly drops. Financial headlines become terrifying overnight. Experts on television begin predicting recessions with confident voices. Social media fills with panic. Co-workers joke nervously about deleting investment apps before things get worse. Your own account falls almost 18% within months. For the first time, the losses feel personal because the money represents actual hours of your life. Early mornings, overtime shifts, nights you stayed home instead of going out. Watching the balance shrink creates physical discomfort in your chest. Now you finally understand why people panic sell. Loss feels emotionally stronger than gain. Human psychology reacts to danger faster than opportunity. Part of your brain desperately wants to stop the pain by selling everything and returning to cash where numbers cannot move unpredictably. One night, you actually open the app intending to pause the automatic transfers temporarily. That word temporarily destroys more wealth than market crashes ever will. But before cancelling a transfer, you notice something important. The market decline means your $300 now buys more shares than before. Lower prices are painful emotionally, but beneficial mathematically. For someone still accumulating investments, that realization changes your perspective completely. Market crashes are not simply disasters. For long-term investors still buying consistently, they are discounted ownership disguised as fear. So you leave the transfers running. $150 on the 1st, $150 on the 15th. The market continues falling. You continue anyway. Months later, the recovery begins slowly. Then suddenly, your account climbs past previous highs. The shares purchased during the downturn rise sharply in value. For the first time, you experience something emotionally instead of intellectually. Markets recover unless you interrupt the process yourself. That lesson becomes permanent because now your confidence comes from lived experience instead of theory. 3 years pass. The account balance reaches approximately $16,000. Something changes psychologically. Once the number becomes large enough to feel tangible, the account no longer feels experimental. It feels structural, like a financial foundation quietly forming underneath your life. You notice another change too. Your financial anxiety has evolved, not disappeared. Evolved. You still care about expenses. You still budget carefully, but your future no longer feels completely fragile. You also begin noticing how differently financially stable people behave compared to financially stressed people. Stable people negotiate salaries differently. They leave toxic jobs faster. They make decisions with patience instead of desperation. Wealth is not only about purchasing luxury, it is about purchasing options. Options create calm. Calm changes behavior. 5 years pass. The account crosses $32,000. You contributed roughly $18,000 personally over those years. The remaining growth came from compounding and market returns. The money itself is beginning to work now. During strong market months, the account sometimes gains more than your manual contributions. That realization feels surreal initially. Dollars sitting quietly inside investments are generating additional dollars without requiring extra labor from you. This is the moment. Investing stops feeling like sacrifice and starts feeling like leverage. Friends who once mocked your caution begin asking questions. What fund are you using? Is 30 too late to start? How much should someone invest monthly? You notice something interesting about human behavior. Most people admire discipline only after the results become visible. Very few appreciate the boring stage while it is happening. But the boring stage is the entire reason the results eventually exist. 7 years pass. Your salary increased during this time, but your investing amount remained consistent. Not because you could not invest more, because the original $300 habit already changed your financial trajectory permanently. Raises improved your lifestyle modestly. Better apartment, better vacations occasionally, better groceries, but the automatic investing remained untouched because it became part of your identity instead of merely a financial strategy. The account crosses $50,000 shortly before your 30th birthday. That number feels different emotionally. Below $50,000, the account felt like savings. Above it, the account begins feeling like a system. A good market year now generates returns equal to 2 months of your working income. The crossover point slowly approaches where the invested money contributes more growth annually than your own deposits. 10 years pass. The account balance reaches approximately $92,000. You look back at the 23-year-old version of yourself hesitating over $150 transfers and almost laugh. That person believed $300 monthly contributions were too small to matter significantly. But compounding transforms ordinary numbers into extraordinary outcomes specifically because consistency multiplies through time. The early years felt slow because the foundation was still being built. Now momentum becomes visible. The account grows faster every year, despite your contribution remaining exactly the same. That is the strange mathematics nobody explains clearly enough. Compounding accelerates quietly. In the beginning, contributions matter more than investment growth. Later, the growth itself becomes the dominant force. Money begins building upon previous growth continuously without requiring additional effort from you. 15 years pass. The account balance crosses $185,000. You contributed roughly $54,000 personally during those years. The market contributed the remaining amount. Your money more than doubled itself through patience alone. No stock picking, no gambling, no financial genius. Just consistency inside a diversified, low-cost index fund left untouched, long enough for compounding to function properly. Around this point, your relationship with economic news changes dramatically. Market crashes no longer feel like personal emergencies. Recessions no longer trigger panic. You survived enough volatility, all ready to understand something emotionally that most people only understand theoretically. Markets recover because productive economies continue functioning. Businesses adapt. Innovation continues. Fear cycles endlessly. But long-term ownership historically rewards patience. You stop reacting emotionally to headlines. That emotional stability becomes one of the greatest hidden benefits of long-term investing. Financial calm improves every other area of life. Because chronic money anxiety quietly damages decision-making constantly. 20 years pass. The account reaches approximately $315,000. You are now generating annual market returns larger than many people's salaries during strong years. The automatic $300 monthly transfers still continue exactly on schedule. At this point, the amount matters far less than the system behind it. The habit survived job changes, breakups, economic downturns, inflation spikes, political chaos, and periods where continuing felt emotionally pointless. That survival is why the outcome exists. Most wealth building is not destroyed by lack of knowledge. It is destroyed by interruption. People stop during difficult periods. They panic during crashes. They pause contributions temporarily and never restart them properly. The mathematics of compounding only works when consistency survives emotion. 25 years pass. The account crosses $500,000. You no longer feel impressed by expensive cars the way you once did. You no longer feel urgency around status purchases, not because money stopped mattering, because financial security changed what feels valuable. Freedom becomes more attractive than appearance. Flexibility becomes more attractive than luxury. You understand now that wealth is not primarily about displaying success. It is about reducing dependence. 30 years pass. The account balance reaches approximately $760,000. You contributed only $108,000 personally across those 3 decades. The remaining hundreds of thousands came from market growth, reinvested returns, and uninterrupted compounding. Your original small monthly decision became a financial structure capable of supporting entire portions of your life independently. You are 53 years old now. The investment account is not your only asset anymore. You have retirement savings through work, home equity, additional investments created during stronger earning years. But the original $300 monthly habit remains the foundation underneath all of it, because it changed your behavior before it, changed your finances. You think back to the younger version of yourself sitting nervously inside a small apartment wondering whether $150 transfers were even worth doing. That person believed wealth required massive income. What actually created stability was consistency. The consistency mattered more than perfect timing, more than intelligence, more than predicting markets correctly, more than finding the perfect stock. You started before you felt fully ready. That is why the account exists now. Somewhere tonight another 23-year-old is staring at their banking app feeling uncertain about money. They have a few $100s that has not yet been assigned a purpose. In the next few days, that money will either disappear into ordinary consumption or move quietly toward a future version of themselves they have not met yet. They think the decision is small. It is not small. It is a 30-year decision disguised as a $300 decision. And the strange thing about 30 years is that they pass anyway. The only question is what waits for you when they do.